Good evening, White Sox fans. The date is Wednesday, April 30th. We are 1 month or so ish into regular season baseball. And your Chicago White Sox, newsflash, still kind of stink. But my name is Danny Miller, the very young, hairy, handsome gentleman. To the right of me on your screen is Jacob Thome. How you doing tonight, Jacob?
Doing well. Hopefully not going to get blown away here in a little bit. But doing well. Nothing to complain about other than the White
Yeah.
Sox, of course.
Well, I have some complaints. I have some praises. We'll get into that. We'll do our excuse me, our heaters and all that whatnot at the end of the show, like we typically do. But yeah, it sounds like you got some thunderstorms on the way, or at least possibly on the way in the area. So
Severe
just
thunderstorm warning. So, yeah.
yeah, awesome. So I guess we'll just we'll put that disclaimer out there to start the show that if Jacob disappears, I will do my best to hang tight with the comment section in the chat, and we'll see where this thing goes, man. So anyway, lots to talk about. We were off last week. I have been just inundated with all kinds of work at the new job. It's been 6 weeks, and things have been crazy. I've been spending a lot of long hours there, so I'm just going to apologize to you and everybody else for missing a week or two here and there. I it's just when you got an hour commute home, and you've been stuck there hours beyond what you thought your time out would be. Sometimes you just can't get it done. So my apologies to you and everyone else, and we'll work this thing out as time goes on. But Uncle Ted in the chat, so good to see you, man. Um, so first things first, I would like to talk a little bit about some of Getz's comments over the last couple of days. First off, we've got some injury updates. And have you heard anything about these injury updates? Have you had a chance to get into any of
I've
this?
heard a little bit. I saw a lot of Merkin tweets yesterday and kind of been going through it. But yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, surprise, surprise, Corey Lee. There still is still expected to be out for another couple weeks, and I'm gonna kind of kick him to the back burner because I have some questions about what you think is going on when he does return. But right now, I want to focus on the guys that have come back or are close to coming back, and I think we'll start with Fraser Ellard making his way back to the bullpen. What do you think about Fraser Ellard coming back? It wasn't an arm injury that sent him down; it was a hamstring, and there's a lot of folks that have made some speculative comments about his hamstring issue possibly having something to do with his command issues when he was
Yeah.
up with the team early in the season. What do you think? Hey, holy crap, we have a Trey Williams. The Trey Williams in the chat. Welcome back, Trey. Long time no see. Long time listener. Long time chatter. James Hesterman in the chat. Good evening, folks. Good evening, sir. But yeah, we'll get into somebody's comments in a little bit. But I just want to hear your thoughts on how you feel about Fraser Eller coming back. Do you think he's going to be a uh, a weapon? Do you think in his time away from the team and getting healthy, do you think we can see the guy he was towards the end of the season last year?
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, obviously, kid's got a 5.40 ERA right now. But pitched well to begin the year. Obviously, was kind of falling off there last couple of games. But I think he gets a lot of hate. I think a lot of people mix up Ellard and Isert, who surprisingly didn't get sent down today. But we'll see. Obviously, the Sox can use as many lefty arms in the pen as they have. I think they only have two right now. Now that Tyler Gilbert got sent back down, I believe it's just Isert and Ellard. So we'll see. Kind of what he can be. Obviously, there's potentially help coming in the bullpen shortly in Charlotte. So kind of see what happens there if they decide to bring up a guy like Coffee. Obviously, Gonzalez just got called up to AAA. They want to plan to make him a reliever. So um, there's definitely some plans in AAA. Obviously, you have some other guys involved right now with Major League program that are showing out. Shout out Mike Brazil. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. Um, Obviously, hamstrings can be tough, so hopefully he's able to stay healthy and not pull a Mike Talkman.
Yeah, well, you brought up you bring out Talkman. He was actually one of the guys that I want to talk about during this during some of the comments that were made. And since that's the name that came out first, let's go ahead and do that because I'm pretty much in agreement with as far as what Fraser Eller's got going on. Uh, Before we get into Talkman, let's just point out that you and I both, and not that this is any kind of rocket science prediction or anything, but you and I both predicted that there was going to be some shuffling of the bullpen early in the season,
Yeah,
especially after some of the really shaky appearances we saw early on, and that we kind of continue to see off and on here now. But I feel like this White Sox team, even is some of their offensive struggles have kind of not fell to the wayside as of yet. Uh, they have shown some signs during Sun games where they can put some runs up on the board and they kind of disappear for a few games. But the bullpen has been probably the weakest part of this, in my opinion, of this team because there are games where they are just flat out rank. They're awful. They stink. They can't get
yeah,
anybody out, and we've blown some really good starts from some starting pitchers who some of those guys you thought were going to be okay, and some of those guys you had question marks on, and they've all kind of been out there and put their heart and soul into the game on the pitching side of the ball, and the bullpen has kind of let them down. So I just hope that as time goes on, for me personally, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Fraser Ellard is the kind of guy that brings the attitude that you need in the back end of your bullpen. So happy to see him back. Hoping for the best. And that's pretty much all I have on that. So
yeah,
let's move on. You bring up Mike Talkman. Um, so Mike Talkman's on the injured list for a hamstring, as mentioned, and Chris Getz he spoke with the media yesterday or the day before and said that he's still probably 2 to 3 weeks away and is still making his way through his running progressions. But I think that's probably a good thing that they're taking their time with him because as we've seen, hamstrings kind of tend to reoccur. This is not the
yeah,
first time that Talkman has had hamstring issues in the past, and as we all well know, the White Sox have been kind of
notorious.
inundated with leg and hamstring injuries over the last few years. They just don't seem to stop or go away. So, but I don't think I ever thought I would be pining, absolutely pining for Mike Talkman to come back and play right field.
Yeah,
So, your thoughts on that? Because I'm sorry, nothing against Palacios, but I really don't want to see him in the game too often anymore.
yeah.
And I don't really want to see him leading off games too often anymore. But
Hey, drove in a run today.
he did,
Got hit by
he
a
did,
big hit by pitch.
he
Takes a
did.
lot of talent. No, but
Sometimes you got
but
to lean
also
into one, man.
listen, if you're not hitting, you might as well take one for the team. I mean, do something. No, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Talkman. Obviously, he's going to play right. Um, he had a really good start to the year and then, pulled his hamstring trying to score. Um, so, we'll see what they get out of him. Obviously the hope I think is for him to be a trade piece at the deadline. Obviously, these guys have to become healthy. If you want any chance of trading these guys, I think Rojas, who I know you're going to bring up in here in a little bit, is another guy who they're going to want to flip. But it'll
You
be
know him
interesting,
so
kind of
well.
because you're going to have a log jam kind of in right field, obviously, or more middle infield. Obviously, they've played Brooks a bit in right, um, and it's really hard to get Sosa, Meadroth, who's another guy we're going to bring up. I'm spoiling your list here.
No, by
Anyway,
all means,
it's
they're
tough,
going to come out. It doesn't matter.
right? And obviously you have to get Jacob Amaya at bats because we have to watch Jacob Amaya play baseball. Definitely a centerpiece of the future for the 2029 Chicago White Sox, Jacob Amaya. But no, I mean you have a lot of guys in the mix. Obviously, Rojas
I
is
don't
another
like
guy
you
who's
right
going to
now.
be in there. Yeah, I know nobody does. And so obviously Brooks is a guy who's by trade a middle infielder, shortstop, second base type of guy. But we'll see if they move him. How much run at right field does he get when Talkman comes back? We'll see. But for now, it'll be nice to get another major league hitter in there and not Joshua Palacios. No offense, or Greg Jones. Again, no offense. Kind of see what we get out of him.
Yeah, Uncle Ted says put Riku in right field. And as much as I enjoy Riku, watching Riku run all over the field, and he's that spark plug kind of guy that a lot of offenses like. I'm just not sure he's MLB ready, but that's just me. I know Uncle Ted's a big fan of Riku. I'm a big fan of watching Riku and the highlight reels that Ian posts on the regular. But I digress. I just feel like there's better options within the organization right now.
Yeah.
I think you leave Riku where he is until you need him, where he's going to be playing, you know, on a much more regular basis than he would with this team at the MLB level. So
To
I
take us
see the reasons why he would be, someone that you'd want to see here, but I just don't see him breaking the lineup every day.
no. To bring up something completely off track, I have thought multiple times this week about Duke Ellis. And I just want to put that out there because I don't know what Duke Ellis is up to, but boy, did he have a fun, 2 game stretch for the White Sox. He was electric. I just want to bring out there. Hopefully, everybody's thinking about Duke Ellis.
Duke Ellis is Duke Ellis's minor league tenure is something of pure beauty, which kind of somewhat resembles what Riku is doing.
Yeah.
Where he just runs all over the place and he gets to every ball on the field and he takes extra bases and he gives opposing defenses and pitchers fits. But again, here we are, and he's not doing anything with a professional baseball career at the moment. So it's one of those things. So I would love to see more of that. I'd like to see that brand of baseball come back
Yeah.
across the game as a whole. I think it would make things much more interesting. But baseball has gone the direction of it's either ding or die, and I understand that scoring runs via the home run is fun, but man, watching guys run all over the place and a little bit of small ball can be interesting as well too.
Billy Hamilton.
Here you go.
Also, shout out to Chandler Simpson for the Rays. He's been electric. He's been a fun player to watch. I've tuned in a couple of Rays games just to watch him play.
Yeah, and you know
Electric
what?
speed factor.
Let's talk about running a little bit. We'll come back to the injuries in just a second since we're on the topic. Who leads the AL in stolen bases right now?
Martin Maldonado.
No.
Darn, I thought I had that one.
But he is a guy who we've seen a little bit of in social media posts and in a red and black pinstriped White Sox uniform lately.
Jonathan Cannon.
Yes, Jonathan Cannon leads the AL in
I'm so
stolen
good at
bases.
trivia.
Oh man, yeah. No, it happens to be Luis Robert Jr. with 11 on the season so far.
Yeah, I mean, and we,
Well,
I know, crazy for a dude who's only getting on base at a 26% clip right now. That's pretty good. Imagine when he starts hitting, he could have 20 steals by now. No, and I think that's a huge part of why people still think you can get value out of Luis Robert, even if the bat isn't there, and he has 40 home run potential because he's put up 40 home runs in a season. The defense, the base stealing, all that is still elite. So good for Lou Bob. He had one leave the park yesterday. I don't know what he's doing today so far, but hopefully as the weather warms up, so does he.
and I think it's just a matter of time with him. If you look at what he's doing with his at bats, and his chase rate has decreased significantly, and his walk rate has gone up, and he does kind of have a bit of he's got a little bit of BABIP issues going on, but I mean he said through an interview recently in the last couple of days too that he feels good at the plate and he feels good about the things he's doing right. his thought is, you know, okay, so my chase rate's gone down, my strikeout rate's gone down, my walk rate's gone up, my hard hit, my hard contact rate is, about the same as it normally is, or maybe even slightly better. But he's wondering why, people are wondering why the production hasn't come. And he basically said what I kind of been thinking for the last couple weeks now is I don't think he's not punishing pitches that he should be punishing because he's being more patient at the plate. He's kind of taking some pitches that he should be, demolishing and hurting,
Yeah.
which is fine. But that just, in my opinion, I feel like he's going to find that groove where he's going to take advantage of those mistakes, and we're going to see a lot more balls leave the yard or turn into extra base hits. So I'm kind of hopeful on that. But seeing a healthy Luis Robert Jr., a guy who's running out grounders in the infield and playing hard on every at bat
Yeah.
and every time he's on the field, to me is the most encouraging thing I've seen of this early White Sox season.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly an identity that Coach Venable has wanted to have, and it's showing through. I mean, you have a lot of guys running out grounders. Obviously Robert stealing a ton is huge for them. Defense has been improved. Um, it still has a far way to go, but it's a lot better than it has been. It's actually a formidable baseball team that knows the fundamentals of baseball, which is always great to have when you're playing in the major leagues. But yeah, I mean, it's been a more enjoyable Sox team to watch just based on the fact that like you can kind of see where it's going, and there's actually people trying to play baseball. In terms of last year, it wasn't quite that. So, um, just culture wise, I think you can start to see the change going on in the White Sox organization.
Yeah, and that's really encouraging as well too. It's I guess that's kind of part of what I was getting at, because it's not just Luis Robert. It is a team wide. Like we've been talking about since opening day. There is a different feel to this team. I think Will Venable has already proven that he is by far the better coach over what we've had in the dugout the past 2 seasons in Pedro Gafal and his secondary coaches after Pedro made his exit. So yeah, just it's just nice to see that maybe there's a direction where hey, baseball is you get paid to do this. It's important. You got to go out there and play the game that you're paid to play instead of moping around here acting like you don't want to be.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, and Uncle Ted says in the chat that they're worse this year, and I think he's talking about his launch angles for Luis Robert, and that might be true. Or is he? I don't know if you're talking about maybe the White Sox statistically in general. That also might be true, but
one win better than last year.
they are still one win better than they were last year at this point.
The Will
And there
Venable
have
effect.
been some promising, developments. And I won't say super promising, but there have been developments as of late. So yeah, he says the White Sox statistically are worse. And that might be true. Defensively, they're not.
Yeah,
Defensively, they're better. Offensively, they are statistically worse. But you got to look at the lineup that you have in place, and you got to look at the amount of injuries that are there as well too. I mean, we've got a bunch of guys. We talked about Palacios, we talked about Jones, we talked about Jacob Amaya. Some of these guys don't belong on a quad A team, let alone at the MLB level, and that's not a knock on them. They're doing what they're being asked to do, which is just fill a hole. Basically, nobody
right.
expects much from them. When part of the reason why we started this show tonight on the injury report and the updates that we got from Chris Getz in the last couple of days is that there are reinforcements coming. Whether or not those
Right.
reinforcements are, they're not awesome. They're not spectacles. They're not something that are going to create a big buzz, but they will probably help this team win a handful more games than what this current lineup is doing. So I think we should probably get back to that. And let's talk about a little bit, since you brought it up, let's talk a little bit about Chase Mydroth. Where do you think Chase Mydroth slots into this? Do we see more of him on a daily basis when he comes back healthy, or is it going to be more of the platooning, the middle infield?
I mean, they have too many bodies there right now. Not currently, but like you can see it coming. Obviously, as Trey mentioned, the Maya's days are numbered. between either Mydroth or Rojas. Somebody's going to take his spot. He's the next one to go down. Um, so it'll be interesting. Obviously, if you do have Talkman in there, you have Sosa, who you'd like to get consistent at bats. He's been a pretty solid hitter for them. You have Brooks Baldwin, who we've mentioned a couple of times on the show already. Um, Obviously, Mydroth. You'd have Josh Rojas, who could play a little bit of third, but Vargas is on a heater right now. I don't know if you want to take him out of there. So you have those four guys. I'm certainly missing one, I believe. Um,
Yeah, there's a young guy that I have been talking about a lot this year. Lenin Sosa.
he was my first name.
Oh, he was. I'm sorry, I missed
Yeah.
it. See,
Oh, you're good.
you're missing somebody. I'm missing. Like I tune you
There's
out
a
when you
middle
talk.
infielder.
Apparently,
I feel like I'm missing. Maybe it is Amaya, but anyway. No, I mean, I think obviously you have four guys. Only four of them can, or only two of them can play in the middle infield. Obviously, Baldwin can play right, but you have Talkman. So, and Sosa could play first, but we'll get into first base later. It's just going to kind of be an interesting part. Obviously, you have a DH spot open. I would hope Vargas is the hole to fill that, and you play Rojas at third. So there's a way you get all these guys into the lineup, which is something I like to see. But somebody's going to have to get a break, probably every day between those four. So, um, we'll kind of see what we get in terms of those four guys. How Venable wants to play them out. Obviously, in terms of that, Venable is working with Chris Getz to kind of figure out, you know, what's going on here. Who do we want to play? How do we want to do it for player development wise? But we'll see.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's kind of a crowded house. Uh, so far, there's been no real standouts. I've been hot on Sosa, who's he's been one of the better players on the team this year, but it doesn't say much, right? He's offensively just kind of average, but this team reeks of suck up and down. So when you get a guy who's kind of just average, and when he has, a few 3 days in a row where he looks really good at the plate, that kind of gives him that standout for me. But then there's those times where he just disappears, like a lot of the lineup does. So, when Rojas comes back, you kind of hope that again he's healthy and he's the spark that is needed to get this middle infield and some of these guys maybe a little bit more protection in the lineup so that they see some better pitches and they get some better at bats, and who knows, maybe some runs get scored. I'm with there's in the chat Brooks Baldwin's being talked about a little bit more and why he's not playing more often, and I've had that same question myself. I don't know if they're just trying to get guys time, if they're struggling to figure out who is going to slot in where while some of these guys are, on rehab assignments or making their way back from, injured lists and whatnot. I would like to see more Brooks Baldwin, and I feel like he could be a guy who could slot in is a two hole or even a leadoff man, but a better leadoff man than Palacios has been.
Yeah.
I don't understand the thinking behind some of that stuff, but there's just time. There's times when we're really not going to know what's going on behind closed doors and behind the scenes. I'm going to have to say that I just trust in the powers that be right now. And, I'm not going to try to play armchair GM or manager too much with a team who's just not good,
Yeah.
because we can go through the what ifs all day. Which is why I kind of like having a chat here. You guys come up with some hot takes as well as some pretty good takes as well. So we appreciate that.
Of course.
All right. Who else is coming back soon? Who am I? Oh, let's talk about oh God, it was like fairy dust. It came and went. The thought. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody.
Um,
Maybe it's
Corey
not an
Lee, we
injury.
already touched on.
Yeah. We can talk about him a little bit. I did want to come back around to him. So they've got Edgar Caro up, right?
Yeah.
Who has, for the most part, been okay.
Sox best hitter. currently.
Yeah, which is why I
It's
say
between him
okay.
and
I
Benny.
mean, he's been a bright spot for the team, and he's obviously going to stick around if he continues to do what he's been doing. So when Corey Lee is healthy in a few weeks, what do you think happens?
Great
Does
question.
Tice stay? Tice has been pretty good too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would assume they view Tice as a trade piece. Um, and I think they'll get something out of him if he continues to hit the way he's hitting right now. Um, it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do. Obviously, Corey has some experience at first, but if you're going to move off of Andrew Vaughn and it's not to Tim Elko, um, there might be pitchforks inside of the gates at 35th and Shields.
No, I could see an
Um,
argument for Vargas going there as well too.
right. And so, you kind of already have first base filled. You don't have an everyday DH. Not ever since our glorious king, Nick Maton, Chatham, Illinois, represent. His very own. Not ever since he was DFA'd. So, they're kind of tossing different guys there. Obviously, DH is kind of a spot you like to keep open. We already mentioned the middle infield. It'll be interesting. He might go to Charlotte, but it's kind of hard because he was the Sox best hitter when was injured. I mean, before he got hurt, there was a huge surge by him. I don't have the stats exactly, but I know his OPS was over 900 in his last little sample size of games. So it'll be tough to kind of see what they do with it. But it's a decision. I don't think you send Cuero down. If anybody's the odd man out, I will say this: if they're only going to keep two catchers, it'll be Lee who goes back to Charlotte. But we'll see what they do.
Yeah, and it's a tough decision for a GM, any GM, whether he's a second year guy like Getz is or a wily veteran GM. Who's the guy that stays? Who's the guy that goes? Because I think in the grand scheme of things, you have to look at Corey Lee and Tice both as trade pieces.
Yeah,
You have to kind of view them. And so what's up? Clutch Vargas does look much better. He looks much improved here as of late. I've seen some folks say, "Hey, he's finally broken the Mendoza line," which is fantastic. But that was a big hole to climb out of, so that's no small feat
I think the
either.
Sox as a team are hitting under the Mendoza line.
Would not be shocking. I don't even want to look at that stat. I would rather not see it.
Just saying.
But
I think that's a
yeah, I, I
yeah.
think I think uh I think Corey Lee. It's hard to say like who do you run with three catchers? Is there a scenario that you run with three catchers? Do you send one of these middle infielders down and keep them both? Keep Tice Carroll and Corey Lee up. I mean, Carroll could be a guy that you could DH on a fairly regular basis, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's gonna be tough because you have three guys. Some of them can play at first. Obviously they can all play DH, but you know, um, I don't know. It's a weird situation because you have for such a bad team, you have a lot of guys you'd like to keep playing. Because I think if you take those guys out, then you're sacrificing a fourth outfielder. Which, yeah, you have Baldwin, but that kind of limits you in terms of that. Um, so I don't know. I just think it's a tough situation to be frankly and I know the chat's talking about trading Lee, but I don't like somebody has to want Corey Lee. I don't know if there's a team out there who will give up anything for Corey Lee currently. Yeah, I get it. The pop time's good. Some of the there's some power there, but he's not a great framer. He's not a high average hitter, and he hasn't shown enough to be really worth anything of value. Um, I just think that there's I know the Rockies, but are the Rockies trying to trade for, especially not giving up Zach Veen?
Not
So
for not for Corey Lee.
right, not for Corey Lee. So um, it's tough because and the Sox are going to continue to have this issue. We're obviously not the prospect show. We're not going to talk prospects. I'm going to talk about it for 5 seconds, but look at middle infield in the organization. There's 30 of them. Like the Sox legitimately might have six future. I'm going to say, maybe not six, but they have a high quality amount of middle infielders who will be top 100 prospects between Bonner, Giral. Like, where are you going to play them all? Obviously, you still have Colson, which we'll get into him as well later.
Yeah, we sure will.
Um, and they all obviously they have the guys on the roster currently, so they're going to have this issue where they have a bunch of quad A hitters coming up. And the question is, it's going to be how does Chris Getz navigate that, and how does they have the same issue in the starting rotation. They have obviously we talk about Mason Adams a ton. The big three's coming; they'll be here next year in some capacity between Schultz, Smith, and Taylor. And then you have the four that you currently have. Um, Obviously, Shane Smith, we think, is going to be a big part of that future rotation. And then you have guys like Davis Martin, Jonathan Cannon, everybody else in the minors. Um, between Iriarte, um, there's a bunch of them out there. Obviously that's a big credit to Banny, but it'll just be really interesting to see. They have so much young talent, which isn't a bad thing, but you have to be able to find all these guys playing time. And I just don't know if they have enough spots to be able to do that. So honestly, if I had to guess right now, Corey Lee starts when he comes back. He's in Charlotte, and then after the deadline, it'll be a race to see who gets called up between um, what's his face Teal and Corey Lee.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know that as good as Kyle Teal is, I don't know that they are ready to make the jump to the MLB level as of right now. Anyway, Getz has been pretty clear about not pushing guys too quickly, unless they feel like they're in that stage of development. Because it's been said over and over again, development continues at the MLB level, but I think they're being a little bit more cautious now with some of their younger players, as we've seen some of those guys being mishandled. Andrew Vaughn being one of them. Andrew Vaughn playing only a handful of minor league games altogether. We might have lost Jacob. I know the storms are rolling through his area there, but the thing about that, what Getz is saying is it, you look at some of the guys that have been pushed through the system. Some guys that have made meteoric rises. We can talk about Colson Montgomery doing everything he was supposed to do until he got to AAA. And, maybe having that pressure of moving up and being the man put on them a little too quickly has kind of shown that we don't want to force the hand of some of these guys, especially when we have the players in place to shield them from that kind of thing. We do have Tice. We do have Corey Lee. They do have, the one thing that Chris Getz loaded up on was catchers in the offseason. So there's no need to push Kyle Teal as of just yet. So, is he back? He is back. Did your battery die again, or is it thunderstorms?
We'll blame it on the thunderstorms, but in all reality, it was option number one. Battery didn't die. It was just I was at 2%, and I was watching it, and I'm like, I'm not going to make it. So I went ahead to grab the charger real quick. We're good now.
Oh, wait a minute now, Ted. Nobody's prospect hugging. It's more of do we? I'm all about trading guys that need to be traded first and foremost. Let's just be very clear about that. But it's about not pushing guys beyond where they need to be pushed at the current moment. And there's no reason. There's absolutely no reason. This team is garbage. It's going to be garbage for the rest of the season. There's no reason to force development on these guys. Let them develop at their own speed. So I think there's a lot of trade possibilities within the organization that, quite frankly, I don't know if any of them are going to get anything huge.
Right.
But I think the philosophy now is, as of late, is get as much as you can. And, maybe get some guys that they do have low floors, but potentially high ceilings, and see if we can bring that high ceiling side out of them. And if it's a failure, it's a failure. It's not something to lose sleep over. I kind of think that the Sox are developing. It's the same way they've been approaching the international market lately. Is before they would leave all kinds of money on the books in the international market, and they would go out and they'd sign 5 or 6 guys every year, and they'd go for that one or two big names and a handful of other guys that they thought maybe had a little bit of upside, and they'd leave money on the books. Whereas a lot of other teams, Cleveland is one of them. It goes out there and they spend every single dollar they got. They even go over, in that percentage of overage that they're allowed, and they signed 30 guys. And after they figure out who those 30 guys are, they'll cut ties with a handful of them, but they'll keep the ones that they think have some kind of promise. And I think for a team that acts as a poverty franchise like the White Sox do, a team that's not going to spend big in free agency, that's the way you're going to have to approach this thing. You're going to have to hope that you're going to find something in the aggregate. You're going to have to throw a lot at the wall to find the one or two things that stick. So that's just my 2 cents on that. We can probably move on. I probably spent more time on that than I wanted to, and I hope I wasn't talking your guys' ears off on it. But that's just kind of where my head is, and we'll see. I'm not real thrilled about being a Sox fan right now. I know everybody's pushing for Jonathan Ishbia to take the team
Yeah.
over, and there's still all this speculation like it's going to happen soon. And I hate to break it to you, Jerry's not selling before he dies.
No.
If it happens, I'll take that egg on the face and I'll take that L. But it's not happening.
No, not at all.
In my he's not going to relinquish his shares. Between him and the trust that he has set up for his kids, they still pretty much control at least half the team.
The only question, I mean, and we'll talk ownership here for maybe 30 seconds, but the only question I think, if you're looking for future hope for the Sox, in terms of a new owner, I think the only hope is that Justin's money is now more in the team. If Justin wants to spend, obviously Jerry's going to let him spend, therefore getting you big name free agents. But I don't think the Sox want big name free agents right now anyway. They're too far away. Um, you don't know where you're going to have. So,
No, your biggest hope on that is maybe we get some help for a new stadium that they've been begging for because the
yeah.
deal is up in a few years. So we'll see where that goes too, because I feel like that's
Yeah.
kind of stagnated at the moment as well. But we're not going to spend a lot of time on that,
What's
like
up
you
with
said.
Chicago teams and not being able to build a stadium? Between the Bears,
Bad
White Sox,
ownership. It's bad ownership. Plain and simple. It's cheap ownership that doesn't want to spend the money on the fan base that has made them the uber rich and the uber elite.
yeah.
Plain and simple. They want,
All right.
we have a lot of old ownership who believes in the old ways, and the old ways across the country in most places was you found a way to get the town to pay for half at least. Those days are long since gone. If you look at every new mega stadium that's gone up in the last 10, 12, 15 years, I'd say probably 80 to 90% of that has been paid for by teams or investment groups that are not tied to any kind of city taxes and taxes of the people of the state. So it is what it is, man.
Yeah. 100%.
So before we move on to some of the other topics we brought up, I have one more that I want to get to. Since we're talking about a crowded infield, we have seen a recent signing, an ex-Cub player who actually got the start at third base tonight in Gage Workman. And what do you think about Gage Workman's comments since coming over from the Cubs and saying now that he's a White Sox player, the only thing he really wants to do is beat the Cubs?
Those Northsiders look pretty good.
They do.
It's a weird comment because, like, and Cubs fans are talking about this because I follow way too many of them on Twitter. And it's a weird comment because, like, he's the guy that, like, the Cubs signed, or I think he was drafted in the Rule 5 draft, and then, like, was given the opportunity. It's just, like, it's the team that gave you an opportunity, and, like, clearly, it's not like you were a good player. Like, I get what Chris Getz is doing. Like, let's take the flyer on the dude, give the Cubs, what, 100, $100. It was traded for cash considerations. Like, sure, why not? Like, if you want to. But just like a weird comment to like be like, oh yeah, like screw the team that gave me an opportunity. Not a huge fan of it, especially when he wasn't good. Um, is weird. Weird comment by Gage Workman, but hopefully it works it out.
Yeah. My only, I just wanted to bring it up really quickly because my only thought on this was that, you know, it's as a guy, like you said, who's not talked about as having some huge upside and is going to be some, perennial all star type of dude, but can be, a serviceable, maybe a utility man, somebody who can come in and do what he's doing for the White Sox right now in case of injuries. Uh, for him to come out and say that, I almost want to say that he just did his homework on the city of Chicago and he threw this out there hoping that Sox fans would jump on it. And I would say the large majority have. The large majority are like, I already love this dude because
Yeah.
he's talking crap about the Northsiders. And I think it's about as far as that goes, to be completely honest with you. What else do you say? I came from one of the better organizations in baseball who did some things in the offseason this year, and maybe they didn't quite shore up everything that they were supposed to, but they've got a pretty talented offensive roster. They might need a little help on the pitching department, but offensively and defensively, they look solid. I mean, they're scoring a lot of runs and they're winning a lot of ball games right now. And you
Yeah.
go from that to the White Sox is maybe not as bad as what Vargas went through going from the Dodgers to the White Sox last year. And to say that, not to say that this guy's even on the same level as Miguel Vargas, but what else do you say, dude? It's pretty
Right.
much it. But yeah, pretty bold comment for sure, nonetheless. All right, man. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's get into the Elko debate, the Tim Elko versus Andrew Vaughn debate because the whole world is up in arms in it right about now. You and I and our very illustrious Mr. Ian Eskrich were discussing this a little bit earlier, and I want your thought. I'll give you mine afterwards. I have some savory opinions, if you might, but I would like to hear your opinion on the Tim Elko versus Andrew Vaughn debate by the numbers. Let's just break this thing down, man.
Yeah. So, hydrogen bomb versus crying baby. If you've seen that meme, like I get it from a certain standpoint. Um, like, listen, the dude has had some great seasons of absolutely mid baseball. Let's give him a chance to see if he can return to the absolutely average percentage. I I get it. The underlying numbers are good. Heck, I put out a tweet a couple weeks ago that was like Andrew Vaughn statistically is the unluckiest hitter in the MLB. But like at this point, we're a month into the season. We're not 2 weeks into the season. It's not working, and it's not like you. At first, I was like, all right, well, it's Tim Elko. First show of the ever on this podcast was like, I'm not a big Elko guy. He strikes out at a 40% walk K rate. He doesn't walk. He's fixed that. He's still striking out at a crazy rate, but it's not. I think he was striking out at a 30% rate. I think he's cut it down at, I want to say 10%. And he's starting to walk. I think he's walking over 10%.
And he got over
Um,
400 on base percentage.
right. He's
I
getting
can
on
I
base
can
at
deal with
4%.
strikeouts when you're
Right.
getting on base with that kind of a clip. I'm just saying. But please continue.
And like he's got what, 9 home runs. Like he's always had the power. The power has never been his issue. He could have came straight out of Ole Miss. He could have played in guaranteed rate field. He would have hit home runs. He's always had power. Not insane, he's not going to hit 500-foot home runs, but he's got consistent power. Um, you know, both ways. Um, I get it. He's 26. I don't know if he's the future of the White Sox, but at this point, if you're Chris Getz, you have to have seen enough of Andrew Vaughn. There's just no way you can continue to watch this team, continue to watch Andrew Vaughn take at bats, who had an RBI today on a single. Um, listen, I love Andrew. I think he got rushed. He's a great person. Um, like a genuinely great dude. But like at this point, it's time. You have to move on from him. And he's got an option. It's not like you have to DFA him. Send him to Charlotte. Get some work in with Ryan Fuller. See if he can't fix some things in the swing. Listen, if he starts putting up crazy numbers, bring him back up. But at this point, you have to see what Elko can give you because there's a chance that you have. Listen, Elko is never going to be a top 10 first baseman, but he might be serviceable. And right now, Andrew Vaughn's the worst player in the MLB. Like, if anything, he gives you better defense. But um, yeah, just I think at this point it's ridiculous to not bring Elko up. Um, I get the underlying numbers are good, but you don't have to get rid. Is you're not DFAing him. You can send him down to Charlotte and see what he's got there. But um, yeah, not in agreement with Guts on this one. We'll see if that changes soon.
Yeah. I mean, you make some really good points, and I'm gonna start by saying that I don't care if Elko's 26. Uh, Having that extra year or two in the minors under his belt, uh, compared to most players, maybe even let's say 3 years more, or at least age wise. I don't think matters all that much. I think it's just where your skill set is. I think that he has proven that he is coachable and open to taking some of the advice he's been giving and making changes to things. His approach, I've heard Fuller say that he's one of the hardest working guys in the organization. Now, of course, you'll hear that a lot of times from a lot of different coaches about a lot of different players, but the word on him was that when the Sox had that new traject machine in spring camp, some guys weren't real big fans of it, others were, and Elko was one of the first ones to latch onto it and kind of keep keep up with it. And since leaving camp and going to the minors and playing with affiliates, he's out there with the machines every day, and he's got coaches working on tweaking things and trying to have him make decisions on whether or not he wants to swing at a pitch, if it's in the zone or out of the zone, or if it's even if it's in the zone, is it a hittable pitch? Is it a good pitch for him to make hard contact on? His hard contact numbers are insane, you know, which is one of the reasons why Andrew Vaughn is still up with the major league team. Everybody's talked about it, including yourself. I don't mean to throw you under the bus here, but the last show we did, right towards the end of the show, I do believe I remember you talking about where his percentiles were in hard hit rate and chase rate and pitches zone contact and all these different ratings that Vaughn looks great in, and is just not seeing any kind of production from those numbers. And a lot of people are saying he's one of the more unluckier hitters in baseball. And if you look at those kind of stats, it kind of seems like he is, except when you go to StatCast, and StatCast says, yeah, he's unlucky, but he's still not really good if what StatCast projects he should be. They still only project him to be a 240 hitter, which in today's MLB, you want your first baseman to be better than a 240 hitter. And his slugging percentage is at like between 450 and 475 or something currently. And again, not awful, but not really great for a corner infielder in today's MLB. So, I mean, yeah. Do we want to sit around and wait for him? Do we want to give him an opportunity to kind of find his way, and as things wind up, the balls start falling better for him, maybe more balls start leaving the yard? Sure. But at the same time, 4 out of his 5 MLB years, his numbers have looked like that every year.
Right.
He's been unlucky every single season. So is it a matter of being unlucky, or is there something that the stats don't show? Because now it's a trend, right? And I just feel like we've seen everything he has to offer, and he's not going to be. This is a team that is prolifically had a solid first baseman on its roster for the majority of my lifetime. And I'm
All
gonna
of
be 50 this year. Maybe not all of, not every single first baseman, but most first basemen that I've seen during my lifetime have been pretty much bangers. Guys that could
yeah.
hit the shot. Going back to the '80s when you had Greg Luzinski putting roofers on the old Comiskey Park, the original Comiskey Park, up through the Frank Thomas and Paul Konerko years. So last one we had was Jose Abreu, and his fall off at the end was unfortunate, but he gave us some great seasons. And now here we are with a number 4 overall pick who can't do anything right. So I'm
Well,
sorry, I'm ready to give Elko a chance,
and the thing is,
even if
like,
he's
if
not
you're
the answer.
Chris, right? If you're Chris Getz, and you're obviously Getz is a big analytical guy, that's been put out there. Um, and you're looking at like, all right, then he's unlucky. But like, where are you expecting him to come up to? Because if you're expecting him to be last year's, if you just want him to become a decent hitter and become last year's, um, Andrew Vaughn, then why not give Elko a chance? I don't think after 5 years and I was struggling, or 4 years and I was struggling fifth, that you're just randomly going to tap in at some unused potential for um, Andrew Vaughn. I just don't see it. So yeah,
Same
I
one.
just
Sorry,
don't get why.
just
Um,
relit it. Can I throw your whole train
why
of thought
we
off?
no, you're good. Why completely threw me off. I don't get why Elko's not on the team. Obviously, I think sooner than later he will be. But it's definitely a mystery right now.
Look, I want nothing more than to see Andrew Vaughn succeed. As a Sox fan, I want to see all our players succeed. I would love to see a much more enjoyable team to watch. I'm not here to down anybody, but the reality is this is a results driven world. No matter what occupation you hold, right? And if you don't do your job and you don't do it consistently, you're gonna find someone who's right behind you, ready to take those reins. Now, do I think the White Sox maybe had done Andrew Vaughn dirty because of the situation they were in? Possibly. They put Andrew Vaughn in the outfield for a couple of years where he had never played and really didn't belong, and it was painfully obvious he didn't belong out there. Did that hinder his development? Did COVID and the time that he spent in Schaumburg after only playing, what was it, 53 games or so in the minor league system, I think, whatever that number was, did the White Sox play a role in breaking a first round pick? I don't really know. It's possible. It's possible that they've put him, like I said earlier in the show, they've put some prospects in some undue pressure situations, I think. Sometimes out of necessity, sometimes not so much. But the fact of the matter remains is we've seen now 4+ seasons of Andrew Vaughn at the MLB level, and none of them have been typically great.
Right.
And maybe Tim Elko isn't the answer. Maybe Tim Elko is the next Gavin Sheets who comes up here and turns into a banger bust kind of guy, home run or nothing, true 3 outcome player. I don't know. Right now, what we're seeing, and granted, Charlotte might be the most hitter friendly ballpark in all of professional baseball. I mean, it's a bandbox. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's like hitting golf balls with an aluminum bat, down there. um, but if even if he's not the answer, I feel like he deserves a shot, and he is, even if only slightly younger than Andrew Vaughn. He's got age on his side in that argument. Even though he's older in the minor leagues than Andrew Vaughn was, he's still younger than Andrew Vaughn is to the day right now. He's definitely a bigger man, which is more of a target for your infielders to throw the ball to at first base. And his power numbers are just historically better across their professional careers. So I don't know. Might not be the answer, but I sure would like to see. And the only way to find out is to bring him up and let him see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, he might not be the answer, but you have to at least give him a shot. And I think he will. Obviously, he's going to be up with the Sox at some point. There's no shot he hits this well and doesn't get his call. It'll just be when does he get that call?
Yeah, and as Ian says, now I brought up Truist being one of the best hitter friendly ballparks in all of professional baseball. He hit 5 home runs on the road last week. 5 of his 9 home runs this season. So more than half of his 9 home runs this season so far in 24 or 25 games have come outside of that park. So
Yeah.
power is not an issue anywhere he is.
Well,
So
he hit in Birmingham. He hit wherever. I mean, he has had power in every park. So
yeah,
yeah, like I said,
yeah,
I truly he's got consistent power. Power is never the issue. Really, the only issue and the only reason I don't think he made the team out of camp. A, he had a whole bad spring. Um, but the strikeout numbers were drastic. They were like I think 30%, which is insane. Or it might have been 40, but um, no, they were definitely 40. So um, he's cut down on that though. So we'll see.
yeah. I like this comment right here. Can't send down a Maya. I'm really not liking you guys right now. You and Jacob both with this Amaya crap. Anywho, uh it's tough. It's just tough in general to be a White Sox fan. But as we spoke about, the reinforcements, whether or not they're awesome, are coming. I think we see a lot less of these quad guys, at least for a little while, as some of the reinforcements come up. When we do get the Rojas's and the Mydros and eventually Talkman and some of the other guys that might make their way up here soon. I think that this is just going to be a slightly improved offense and team that'll score some more runs and win a handful more ball games. I do believe that the Rockies will probably be the worst team in baseball this year, and as of right now, look like they could eclipse the worst record in baseball. Sox might only
They're
be
bad.
Yeah, the Sox might only be a one and done on that record, so we'll see how that goes. But they're awful all the way around. They're just bad. They can't hit. They can't pitch. They can't play during the day. They can't play at night. They can't play at home. They can't play on the road. They're just
Speaking
bad.
of things that can't play, the White Sox bullpen. Shout out to Cam Boozer. It's now 5-3 Brewers.
Yeah,
Ian put it in the chat.
yeah. We'll
Still
just
nobody
throw that
out.
up.
Top 8.
I'm gonna put that one up there.
Glad they
See.
traded a prospect for him.
Yeah, like we talked about it early in the show. We'll talk about it one more time. The the bullpen churn is going to continue. And at some point, I do probably believe that we are going to see Cam Boozer make an exit fairly soon. I think the only reason he's been doing what he does this long is because they did trade a prospect for him.
All right.
Plain and simple. And, the teams are going to give themselves all the rope they need to hang themselves in hopes that they turn it around and don't look like buffoons for doing what they do. But, maybe we'll see some of these guys like, I don't know. I don't know how I felt about the whole starter situation. For what it was at 4 games in a row or something. It worked out once or twice. It didn't work out so great other times. I don't really know, but the bullpen needs some work. Needs some help.
Everything needs to work. Bullpen's pretty bad, though. Not pretty
Yeah.
bad. Bullpen's awful. They're better than last year, though. Improvement.
Statistically better than last year, but I think they're blowing more games this year. But
I don't know. That team last year blew a lot of games.
it's true. Maybe it just feels that way because
Yeah.
the Sox have been in some games going into the second half of games. Even had some leads going in the second half of games, and the bullpen just,
Also, the starting
for lack
pitcher,
of better words, just shits the bed.
starting pitching's been better this year. So I think other than Crochet, obviously, but I think
Right.
overall the starting pitching has been better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
We didn't touch on this. You want to touch on this quickly? Martin Perez down for the year.
Yeah,
I know
go
that's
ahead.
a. I mean, obviously that's a hole. Bryce Wilson's going to be the starter Sunday. It'll be interesting to see who they bring up. To everybody's demise, don't be shocked if it's Clevenger. I will say that. That would not shock me in the least bit. Um, I don't know if there's a starter ready to go in Charlotte. Ian would be my guy for that. I don't think there is. Um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see because like I don't think you could run Bryce Wilson out there every 3 starts and just have a bullpen game because your starters aren't going deep enough. You're gonna run out of arms and you're already seeing it. So they're gonna need a starter. We'll see if they sign one. I know there's still some names available, but I think if they were going to sign one, they would have done it already. I'm very expecting it to be Mike Clevenger to fill in the role.
Yeah, I also get the feeling that there's probably going to be a little bit of churn as far. I think there's going to be a handful of names we're going to see. We're going to see a couple of guys currently in the bullpen go down. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see Clevenger and possibly another starter from Charlotte come up. Charlotte's got. I think Charlotte's been on an every day of the week rotation to start the season so far. And they've been playing really good baseball. Which, hey, if you guys are the type that are following FutureSox for prospect stuff, Charlotte has not been a fun watch the last few years, and right now, Charlotte's winning ball games.
Okay.
So it's a good turnaround. The folks in the Carolinas, I think, are pretty happy about that to be able to see a baseball team win some games. But I think the White Sox are going to be plucking some of their better players here pretty shortly. So we'll see. But yeah, uh, it kind of sucks to see Martin Perez go down. He was the only real offseason acquisition for Chris Getz this year, and here we are. So
Yeah,
you know,
you ain't kidding.
so
But we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that fifth spot.
yeah. I'm not going to make any predictions on who it's going to be, but I have some thoughts, and we'll see what goes. But you know, it's part of being a White Sox fan the last few years.
Dominic
Injuries.
Fletcher.
You want to move Dominic Fletcher into the starting rotation?
No, into the bullpen. That's where he's at right now. Have you not seen this?
I have, but
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, you want to? I thought you wanted to move him into the starting rotation.
Not seriously, no.
Okay, all right.
Joey
I,
Gallo? Come on. Give me Dominic Fletcher and Joey Gallo. Let's bring back pitchers hitting and let's see if we can't do something. No,
do you want to?
not
You
big
want
for
to?
for pitching.
You want to do hot takes and heaters? You want to just do heaters?
I'll just throw
Are you?
hot takes all day long. Or yeah,
Well, I
hot
mean,
takes
you're
all.
already doing the hot takes, so do we want to move into heaters? We're about an hour in, and or actually a
Sure,
little
we can
over
move
an
in
hour
haters.
in.
I have a few guys I'll bring up. I'll give shout outs to.
All right, let's do that.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I want you to go ahead and kick it off, and I'm hoping that because we have not discussed this, I'm hoping that we don't have the same ones.
I
But
bet you we will.
go ahead.
Give me Miguel Vargas. He's on a heater. Finally, doing some stuff. That was definitely going to be your pick. I'm
Yeah.
glad that I stole it.
Yeah.
Um, over 1,000 OPS in his last 7 games. He's doing some good things, and playing good defense. So, boom.
All right. Yeah, it was mine because I mean, who else has really been on a heater lately?
Oh, I
I'm gonna go
plenty.
with you know what? I'm just gonna go with the consistency that we have seen from a guy who we hoped would be more consistent in the beginnings of his White Sox days. But I'm gonna go with the consistency of an Andrew Benintendi being someone who can be a bat to be at least slightly feared, or let's just say respected in the White Sox lineup for the first month of the season, when there have been times where he probably is laughed at as being the highest paid player in White Sox history. I know it's kind of a cheap heater, but that's where I'm going because what else do we have to hang our hat on right now? Andrew Benintendi is actually playing halfway decent baseball.
Not halfway decent. He's the best hitter on the Sox. Also, this is a cheap one that I'm totally going to go to because I'm not ashamed to go to it. Edgar Quero.
I
It's
mean,
not a heater to start his career.
Uncle Ted seems to think he's Adley Rushman 2.0. I hope he's right, but great start to his early career. Fantastic stuff. Oh, we got a new chatter right as we're about to leave. 2026 draft, Drew
Wrong.
Burris.
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. I think it's early, really, to say about the 2026 draft because I'll be honest with you. If anything is if history is telling us anything, at least recent history is telling us anything, I think the White Sox are going to continue to load up on pitching. As much as fans are pining for a young bat somewhere in the organization who is going to have some very quick meteoric rise, a la the hopes of what won Colson Montgomery, which I guess we haven't even talked about really. There's not much to say. I wanted to push it off to the end of the show anyway because it would probably be a pretty quick conversation, but I think everybody wants that Colson Montgomery hype type kind of guy. But
Give me the kid with the
Bannister,
last name LeBron. Are you kidding me? What is his first name? Justin? Shortstop for Bama? Give me the kid named LeBron to play in Chicago. You could not write that any better. Plus, he's rakes. Justin LeBron? There's no way that fails. No shot that fails. Ian's with me. I know he is. Justin LeBron in Chicago? Come on. That's way too easy. That's a slam dunk pick.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Wild One seems to think that if they have a pick in the top three, we'll get for sure an at bat. I don't know. I sure would like to think so, but again,
Wild one, by the way.
is
Great
there any
follow.
reason to believe that a bat's going to develop in this system right now? And the only hope that I
Bats are
got on that
developing.
is that there have been changes over the last few years in the system, and we can only hope. But
Ian.
I am not with you
Ian
on a
doesn't
guy
touch
named.
2026 yet. Just wait.
Yeah, we
Start
don't
watching the
really
game.
like guys named LeBron in Chicago, but I'm not gonna hang that on this kid because he is a hell of a ball player, and we're not gonna associate him with the basketball player. And the reason we have so much hate for that name is because there's no way, there's no way there should even be a comparison to Michael Jordan. Plain and simple. We're not going to start that discussion here. We already have to look at red and black White Sox uniforms because Jerry Reinsdorf decided he wanted to play off of the Chicago Bulls' successes of selling tickets even when they can't win a single play-in game the last couple of seasons.
We should talk about the jerseys because they are pitiful. Actually, I don't think they're as bad as I thought they were going to be. They're all right. I think the idea of them is god awful, but the execution, not horrible.
I've kind of warmed up to them slightly,
So have I.
but only
The
slightly.
hats are fantastic.
Yeah, well, the old school Sox flyer uh, logo on the hat. I'm a big fan of that logo to begin with. I just don't know how I feel about the Bulls colors. I mean, I am a Bulls fan, or at least used to be. I'm not a real big fan of the NBA and the direction it's gone as a whole. But yeah, I'm okay with it. It's better. It's better than some of the other City Connect uniforms we've seen out there for sure. I can't complain. We've seen some pretty atrocious stuff. So in that respect, I'll give the Sox a C just because they don't suck tremendously like a lot of others do.
Could be Boston. I still hate those jerseys. I think they are the ugliest jerseys ever. Those bright banana yellow jerseys, they are so ugly. They wore them against the Sox. Oh my god.
They should have just did the yellow like the with neon pink and purple like the Savannah bananas do. They
Their
might have
next
actually
ones
got.
are pretty decent. They're like the shade of the green monster. which is going to be interesting because you're going to blend in with their green monsters. So who knows? Maybe that's not a good.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
mean, green screen. Maybe they'll do some kind of cool psychedelic stuff with green screen. I don't know. Make them look sparkly or something, or like wavy tie dyed with motion on a green screen. So the people at the game, all they see is Green Monster jerseys, but us folks watching on TV will see some goofy
They
stuff.
do like the digital ads on the players,
Oh,
like on how they do for like hockey
this is
games.
this is where baseball. Dude. Seelig is like sign me up right now. Seelig's all about it, dude. Sign me up, Jacob Thome. You might have just got yourself a promotion to the front offices of MLB,
There it
head
is.
of the class.
It's just
All
a
right, let's.
giant like Shell oil logo, like chasing the ball.
There you go. There you go. They bring back like the old Cleveland Indians scoreboard from the Major League movies. Like they used to have back when I was a kid. You get the sound effect and this single light bulb, almost like giant LEDs. It made your entire graphics up. No colors, no nothing. Just home run. The ball chasing off the screen. Yeah. Yeah, it's like 8-bit
Shut up, Balin.
Atari graphics.
Thanks for checking in, Balin.
Yeah, you
Appreciate
caught
it.
us. You caught us right as we're about to finish up. We're going to talk a little bit about Colson Montgomery, and I think we're going to wrap it up here tonight. But welcome, thanks for checking in. Hopefully, we'll see you in one of our future chats. But yeah, let's do this real quick. Let's talk a little bit about Colson. Uh, so everybody and their brother who's been following the White Sox knows who Colson Montgomery is, what he's been talked about, who he could be, and his meteoric rise throughout minor league baseball until he hit Charlotte and dealt with some injuries last year and has not been able to shake his hitting woes. What are your thoughts on what Colson Montgomery has gone through this week and being shipped off to Arizona to work on his swing?
I love it. To me, it screams there's something to fix. So, uh, Fuller was in Charlotte to help Colson. He started hitting, and now they're going to ship him back to Arizona, which I like because, and I'm assuming Ryan's not going with him. I'm assuming Ryan has a staff in Arizona that he will help Colson with, but because obviously Ryan Fuller is got a tough job. He's got to develop the entire program. He's got 4 different teams, including the 5 different teams, because he's working with major leaguers
And
as well.
by the way,
So
Miguel Vargas just RBI'd. He just had another RBI single
darn
for
right
the
he
evening.
did.
Yeah, so keep it up,
If
kid.
only the bullpen didn't blow it.
Made me look bad. I'm good with that. I make me wrong. I'm a grown man.
If he
I
doesn't,
take
Gerald
skin.
Perez will.
Joel
Um,
Perez is on a really big heater right now in the minors. If you guys aren't following that, check out our Twitter X
Wrong
page.
podcast, but yes,
Yeah, check out our
more than
Sunday
one.
night pod with James and Ian. Uh, and then check out our Twitter feed as well. Ian's got all the highlights up there. Joel Perez. He's going to be featured a little bit if he continues to do what he's doing. So,
Yeah,
and he just got a promotion, did he not? Think he did he just not make
there
his
was
way
like
up to?
5 middle infielders who just got promoted. I
I
don't
feel
know if
like
he was
he's
one of
one of the
them.
ones that just made his way up to Winston Salem, but I'm not sure.
I
Anyhow,
think he was in Winston Salem.
oh,
Anyway, not
okay, you're right.
not the topic of the discussion.
Yeah,
Going back to Colson. No, I mean him being sent to Arizona makes me feel like there's something in his swing that can be fixed. Some people have said there's a hitch in his swing. There's somebody notoriously in the chat that thinks if he would stop trying to pull every ball right down the line, um, he would potentially be a better hitter.
if he could
Listen,
lift the ball on the pull side a little bit, I think he'd be a potentially better hitter. But everything seems to be low.
I'm not a scout. I don't claim to be a scout. No idea what I'm looking at. But clearly, they think there's something they can fix. Colson's been swinging it well. We'll see how long the stay in Arizona is. There's some Sox fans mad about it because they wanted him up here. I have no idea why. We already have too many middle infielders. No need to add one who is just going to strike out at an extreme rate. He is still, by the way, the hits are starting to come. Strikeouts are as well. He's still striking out at an insane rate. I know they have a track it machine down in Arizona. It'll be nice to kind of see him be able to see pitches that he's been struggling on. That's the whole point of this machine is, hey, you struck out 13 times against this specific slider. Let's go through it. You're going to face it until you don't swing anymore. I think it's a great move for the Sox. Obviously, Colston's a guy that you want to turn into a top tier player. Again, if you're unfamiliar, I don't know how, but kind of a Corey Seager type of comparison, player who can play at third, former top 20 prospect in the MLB. So we'll kind of see what he's able to turn on, see if he can get fixed by Mr. Fuller and his staff down in Arizona.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. The thing about Colson is he was at least a year and a half to 2 years, age wise, behind most of his competitors at every level that he was at, including when he was moved up to Charlotte. He had hit at every single level throughout his entire life up until that point, and then the injury happened. And I think maybe in that time, he came back a little too soon. I don't know, but his swing definitely did look different. Looked a little bit longer. Looked a little bit slower. After I went back and watched some video a few weeks ago, and we talked about that a little bit. I wonder if maybe that was something that had developed where he still wasn't feeling 100% when he came back, and now he's just got to break that habit and get back to his, what his swing should be. But I'm sure the White Sox staff is going to work with that. They obviously see something that needs to be worked on. They're probably going to give him, some time to work on that. And the idea of pulling him away from Charlotte kind of takes the pressure off of him to do it right now on a nightly basis, especially with a team that is playing good ball and winning ball games. And he probably doesn't feel like he's contributing as much as he should be to that. So give him the time, fix him, work on the things you need to work on, take the pressure off of him. I'm all about it, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah. Kind of a change of scene, like a guy who needed a change of scenery. This is a change of scenery. You're obviously not in a trade, but it's something different. It's something to get his mind off of, hey, we're playing baseball games every single day. I have pressure to perform. Obviously, we know that back injuries can be just detrimental to players. Shout out Joe Caridi. Yohan Moncada, I think, dealt with that a little bit. There's plenty of other examples, but we'll see if they can fix the swing. And obviously, as I mentioned, I think there's no shot they move him to Arizona if there isn't something that they see wrong. They're going to try to fix it. I really do like what Ryan Fuller has done for the system. I think you're starting to see a little bit of Bannister last year where like all these pitchers started coming out of nowhere. Seen quite a few hitters starting to hit the ball really well, especially in high A and low A. So really excited for the future of everything here.
Yeah, me too. That's kind of where we've been the last few seasons is we're looking forward to the future. But there are some reasons to believe that this time around there really are some true diamonds in this rough organization. So I think that's about it. I don't really have anything else that I want to go over this week. Do you?
I do not.
All right, really quickly before I sign us out. I missed this in the chat, but Ian says Caro is into pitch hit for Amaya. So
just grounded out, by the way. Unsuccessful. Jacob Amaya would have homered.
If Caro was going to get a hit every time, he'd be the best player to ever play the game. So it is. It is what it is. Anywho, the only thing I want to throw out before we sign off here tonight is, as I said early in the show, work has been kind of crazy. There have been some new developments that, probably are going to make me even busier than I have been. So things are a little bit weird, but as of right now, we are going to continue doing hot takes and heaters on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. My plan is to start rotating in some of the young gentlemen that we have added to the team over the last few months. You guys, if you're paying attention to any of our blogs, have probably seen some of the articles written by them and the write-ups on players. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to kind of sprinkle those in coming up here in the near future. There also might be some other developments as well, but we'll keep you posted as those come up. But for now, this has been Hot Takes and Heaters. As I said, you can find us Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Central on YouTube, and as Ian says, the Purple app for algorithmic reasons. We cannot mention that one. For all of our written content and Patreon exclusives, you can find that at FutureSox.net. You can check out all our prospect and MLB highlights on our X/Twitter feed at FutureSox. And also right here on the FutureSox YouTube channel. Please, if you do not do anything other than like and subscribe, do that. If you enjoy the content, hit the like and subscribe on all of our shows, whether they're live or recorded. We really appreciate the support. And as far as well, there's also our super chats are open on all of our live shows. So if you like what you're hearing, like what you're seeing, you want your highlight commented, please go ahead and hit us up with a super chat. We greatly appreciate that. If you like any of the contents and our wow, I am really struggling with this. I have it written down and I don't know what I do with my notes. So I apologize. But if you want to see any of our lock content behind our Patreon paywall, there's also that available at futuresox.net. My name is Danny Miller for my co-host Jacob Thome. We will see you next week. This has been Hot Takes and Heaters, and as always, go White Sox.